All right, good evening, New Phoenixes, and welcome to Elon's first live on air Are You Ready web show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're really excited. This web show was created to provide an intellectual discussion based on the different first-year experiences that you'll be experiencing when you come to Elon. Without further ado, we're going to be introducing ourselves. My name is Sam Jones. I'm going to be your host for this summer, one of your hosts. And I'm a rising senior here. Also with me, we have our producer. You might recognize her from your emails, Lori Shackle.
Yep, I'll be here as producer for all of the on-air sessions this summer. And as producer, I'll be answering your questions live. So when you're viewing the Hangouts, on the right side of your screen, you should see a panel of Q&A. And if you type your question in there, we'll try to answer them live on the show with the experts.
Thanks. And today's focus is going to be on the Elon Core Curriculum. So we actually have the director of the Elon Core Curriculum here, Dr. Jeffrey Coker.
Nice to see you.
All right. And then we also have several students joining us. We've got Susie Masker, who's also a rising senior. And then joining us via the web, we have also another rising senior, Desiree Porter, who's joining us, and a rising sophomore, Gabriela Alvarez.
Hi. Hi.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the Elon Core Curriculum. So, Dr. Coker, if you could just give us a quick overview of what that encompasses here at Elon.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you all for joining us. We're really excited that you're going to become part of the Elon community. So the Elon Core Curriculum is the set of courses and experiences that are shared by every student. So it's really at the heart of what it means to come to Elon, to be part of the Elon community. Every student, of course, has a major, and those majors are different across campus, but everybody takes their core curriculum. Mm-hmm. So this is the shared experience that kind of binds everybody together.
Absolutely. And so I understand that the Elon Core Curriculum can be broken down to several different units, and one of those is the first-year foundations. Can you speak to what that itself encompasses?
Sure. So every first-year student has to take three classes within the larger, all the other classes that they'll take during the first year. There's a course called the Global Experience, or Core 110, a writing course, English 110, and then a statistics class, which is Math 110, or for some people, Math 210. So those are the foundations courses. And then students will also be taking world languages, other courses in the arts and sciences that would count in a section called the studies in the arts and sciences. Mm-hmm. Those are the three big categories that most first-year students would be or practically all first-year students would be taking courses in.
Okay, awesome. So I know we have students joining us, and I'm a student as well, and we've all experienced the majority of these already, and if we haven't, we're going to be experiencing them in our next year or two here at Elon. So can we maybe chime in with some stories that we have or experiences that we have within the first-year foundations? That includes English 110, Core 110, which is the global experience, and the third one, which Math 110, which is a general statistics course. So, Susie, do you have any stories or experiences that you can share?
Stories. Well, I took my English 110 it was a fellows class. So I'm in the fellows program, and it was just kind of like a class that was targeted towards anyone that's in one of those programs. And so that was really helpful because it focused on, I guess, after Elon opportunities. So we really got to know like what it would be like if we were applying for like a Fulbright or something like that. So I guess that gave me a lot of experience, and it kind of got my mind thinking for what I'm going to do after Elon. It was helpful.
Definitely. What about Gabrielle or Desiree?
Yeah, I mean, I at the Core 110, the Global Experience, that was probably an influential class I took in my first semester of Elon. It was really interesting. Every class with world news. Then everybody got to come together and share their thoughts on the world. We discussed books. We did this thing where we looked at our clothes or the cereal that we ate or different things that you eat every day and figured out where they came from and how it connected the countries. So it really challenged me to realize your role in the world and how it can around you. But that was just the classroom experience. The global experience is different for every teacher that teaches it. So it's really interesting when you talk to your friends about, oh, well, I'm doing this in my global class. It's completely different than what you're doing, but it all comes back to the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just to echo what Gabriella just expressed, I must admit, out of the freshman courses that I took, I really enjoyed the global experience. For a lot of the same reasons that she mentioned, it's really nice to have class discussions after reading some literature and coming back and sharing opinions. You really get to know your classmates better. You get to appreciate the differences amongst you all, and it really is a great setup for the next 3 years at Elon because you're going to run into students from very diverse backgrounds, and it teaches you to appreciate the differences that others bring to the table through the class discussions that you have in that course.
Thank you very much. Yeah, speaking to the what Desiree and Gabriella said, an interesting, I think, experience that is, that coincides with the global experience of the Core 110 class is that when you first coming in, you don't get to choose that class. It's a class that you're placed in for the most part, I think for first semester students at least. And the teacher that you're with, it's kind of open-ended in a way, in terms of, you could be placed with, an economics teacher, or you could be, placed with a teacher that normally teaches like a literature course. And so you really get, a different experience than many of the other students that you're in classes with. From my experience, I was with Greg Lilly, who is an economics professor, and so I had never really talked about the gross domestic product of Burundi before. So that was a really interesting topic that I have used throughout my college career, and I'm really glad that I have that information, especially how that coincided with the statistics courses that I later ended up taking for my the core curriculum courses. So I think that really speaks to Elon as a liberal arts kind of community, that there is this course that really speaks to several different, what professors, whatever they choose to speak on to.
Yeah, and what we're trying to accomplish in there is really to cultivate global thinkers. And so all the professors that teach that class, even though they come from every department around the university, like you mentioned, we all have a set of common themes that we all touch on. So we all touch on globalization. We all touch on the nature of culture and diversity and these kinds of things. But like you said, even though we have common themes, everybody gets at them from different angles.
Right.
And so there's shared experiences within it, but there's also diversity across sections, like you said. So across the whole first year experience, what we hope is that it gives everybody a common framework to have conversations both in and out of class with everybody in the incoming class. There's that shared part, but then there's also diversity in terms of what people are experiencing. So it's all thoughtfully designed.
Right.
We hope it always plays out that way.
Yeah. And so something I'm wondering actually is how the common reading book comes into play, because I mean, considering that I had an economics teacher, the book that we read was called Creating a World Without Poverty for my year, and I think that was for a lot of our years. It's by Muhammad Yunus, and because that book really focuses on economics and microcredit throughout the world, it definitely came into play. So I'm wondering, is it kind of a accepted thing that the common reading book is also going to come into play within the Core 110 course?
The common reading book can come into play in lots of different places around campus. It probably comes into play most frequently in Core 110, but other people, you'll see programming in the halls, you'll see campus events that relate to it. So this year we're bringing in the author William Kimkwamba. There'll be a producer of a film called William and the Windmill. There'll be people talking about alternative energies. So there's a lot of different opportunities for people to plug in.
Right.
What other experiences have Gabriella, Desiree, Susie? Have you all had other interactions with the common reading?
With the common reading, I think I actually had more in common with the common reading for the year behind me. Was it Little Princes? So that actually came into play in my paraclean class. I mean, my common reading, we all touched on it and gave our opinions on it, freshman year, but after that, I guess it kind of fades out after you get those core classes done.
In my class, we kind of took the micro lending idea that Muhammad Yunus had, and we put it into action. So we all put together a pot of like $50, I think, and we lent it out to a specific community that we felt needed the money the most. So we actually used his ideas and went out into the community and made a little bit of a difference. So it's kind of cool to see it actually working.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to a value that Elon, really wants to instill in their students, is that becoming a global citizen, and how do you take what you learn here and begin to apply that into your life. So, like you said, like the microcredit, like actually taking action and, how actually making an influence on the world in some way is definitely something I think Elon, tries to instill in you.
I'm getting some questions. Can we clear something up real quick?
Yeah.
You do have to take each of the first year foundations courses, correct? So the global, the English, and the statistics are all required for every student.
Yes.
Yes.
And unless, in some cases, people might AP out, but aside from that, yes, everybody has to take those 3 classes.
Great. Got it.
Any more questions?
We have some students wondering about all the different types of Core 110 sections you can be placed into. We have a question about a leadership Core 110, different things like that. Do students always know coming in what kind of topics they're me discussing?
I know that I didn't. I really didn't know what. I mean, I think that you're going to get your schedule. So, and for the most part, your teachers are going to be, included. So, if you really want to do some hunting, you could look up, via the directory, what courses that teacher typically, or the professor typically teaches, which could be a way to gain some insight into what kind of Core 110 course you're going to be placed in. But I also understand that sometimes students don't take that course until their second semester as well.
Right.
So they might be able to choose if they're put in the second semester, maybe.
Right. Well, I'll speak to that directly. And we really want every section to be as diverse as it can be. So I'm a biology professor by training, and I teach Core 110. And it would not be good if a bunch of biology majors signed up for my class. So we really want there to be a wide array of people in every section, so that we've got all those different perspectives to really think about problems in the most complex way possible. So that's why we intentionally do not put the themes in the course titles, and we don't want people signing up for the section with that focuses more on blankety blank, because that diversity is really important. I mean, that's really the primary point of the course. So it's unlike every other course on campus, really, in that regard.
And I would say that's one of the things that made global such an interesting class for me, is that it's outside of what you would expect. So if whoever asked this is worrying about whether you're going to like the content or whether it's going to make you uncomfortable in the way that it approaches it, I would just push that thought out of your head, because that's the whole point of this class.
Is to push you out of your comfort zone and make you think of world issues in ways that you wouldn't have expected beforehand.
Right.
Yeah.
It can sound a little bit sometimes to take a class that you might not have any in, depending on what professor you have, but the point of it is it's a global experience, so you never really know what you're going to get. But even though it's a curriculum class, sometimes people get their general requirements is just to check off the list. It's really a class that I would recommend you taking, even if it wasn't required, because there are so many different perspectives and ways of looking at the world that you wouldn't even know were out there. And this course challenges you to think about it. It's kind of like the keystone on education.
Definitely. A term that I hear a lot of Elon students, tossing around is that they feel more well-rounded after taking a course like this, because it introduces something that a course that they might not have taken otherwise. Definitely.
We have a student still asking for specifics on what kind of topics you get in global class. So I know in mine was an English professor who was explaining different world cultures through the literature that comes out of each. So we looked at things like poverty and social justice issues, but it made us think about it in a way that wasn't ethnocentric, which is how I would have thought about it in high school.
Okay.
So those are the kind of topics you discuss, and who you have as a teacher kind of changes what lens you look at those topics through. So does anybody have any more specific examples of what they talked about in global?
Yeah, I had a professor from the math department, but we focused on the global movement of people. So we looked at active migration and globalization and people migrating towards city centers, but we also looked at human trafficking and slavery that is still happening today, and that was pretty eye-opening. So even there, right there, that's a pretty big difference between just these first two classes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
My global section looks a lot at poverty and sustainability, but also a lot of diversity. And a couple of times, one of our papers towards the end of the course was more about problem solving. So kind of throughout the course, we've been asking questions and thinking about how these things happened and what people were doing about them, and then we got the opportunity to do that towards the end. So I know in my paper it was actually about diversity in Disney films and how there were fewer ethnic princesses and stuff like that, and things that change that course. There were papers across the board for every category, and we got to share them. Another way that those themes came into play.
Definitely. So another aspect of the Elon core curriculum is the ELR, which is something that is I feel like a lot of students talk about, like, what are you going to do to like complete your ELR? At least I remember, my first year, that was something we all were like, it was all sort of like a daunting task. Like, what's going to be my my mission, in my ELR? So there are several different ways to achieve that goal. So we can go through those. Let's see. So there's internship.
And just for people that don't know,
Yeah.
ELR means Experiential Learning Requirement.
Right. Definitely. So and it's just, I think it's not, I don't know, would you say it's like extracurricular, or would you say it's something, I don't know, how would you, it's outside the classroom in a way, for the most part.
Properly practiced, it should be co-curricular. So it's meant to bridge the intellectual life of the classroom with real-world practice. So it's supposed to bridge those two worlds and give students a more practical, hands-on, engaged learning experience that Elon is all about.
Definitely.
So, Desiree, can you tell us what you're doing this summer?
So I'm actually interning. I'm serving as the Customer Insights and Analysis intern at Wells Fargo in Charlotte. So that is one form of experiential learning under the ELR umbrella. I am completing an internship.
I think I can speak to that as well. My ELR was through an internship. I actually just completed a semester in Los Angeles. So while I was out there, one of the requirements for that semester is to complete an internship. So I was working at a talent agency, which was located like close to like Beverly Hills, and it was a completely different experience to learn about the business side of the entertainment industry, which is something that I'm very, very interested in. So I was really excited to apply what I've learned at Elon and what I've learned, what I was learning while in LA. And kind of bring those two together.
Right.
What about you guys?
I'm working on an undergraduate research project for my honors thesis right now, and I won't be done until the end of my senior year. But I'm looking at intellectual and inclusive communities and how people lead others to an inclusive community. And one of my favorite aha moments of this past year was when I took a psychology of leadership course, and it all kind of clicked for me of how to communicate expectations and share leadership goals with those who are intended to follow you. And so that was like my biggest puzzle piece moment, I guess, because my ELR fit into my classes, and it was like, oh my gosh, I get it now. So it was great for me.
Yeah, I did an internship last summer. I did it at a wildlife rehabilitation clinic just north of Raleigh called the American Wildlife Refuge. So we worked with birds of prey. But, that was just one thing. I think a lot of people end up having way more ELRs than they really need to graduate.
Yeah.
So I did an internship. I'm doing research. I studied abroad, which I'll count, and then the other one's leadership and service. I did those too, but I just didn't have them under the designation. So people think it's a daunting task, but you'll end up covering more than you even need.
Yeah, it definitely starts out, you think like, oh, how will I achieve this? And then you end up with like a few under your belt. Maybe you don't, register for all of them, like you said, but you have definitely like applied yourself in each one of these different, aspects of the EOR.
And I would say,
jump into.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Am I
Desiree.
interrupting someone? Okay. I would say the most valuable advice that I could offer any incoming freshman is just to don't cut yourself off from any experiential learning experience. Like, open yourself up to all 5 of them. They are all valuable, and there are things that you can learn from doing each of them. I know that the internship I'm currently in, working within the Center for Market Research, it is something that was, research is an interest that was unveiled to me through completing another ELR. Working with Dr. Coker actually on an undergraduate research project really unveiled my interest in research, and now I'm completing an internship in that field. So don't cut yourself off from any of the 5. They're all valuable, and really, if you have an opportunity to do all of them, I certainly say go ahead and do all 5 of them if you can.
Gabriella, can you tell us where you're at?
Yeah, I'm actually doing an internship with my congressman's office, Congressman Frank Wolf, in the 10th District of Virginia this summer. So I'm doing that, and I wanted to study abroad. I found out it's a requirement for my major. I'm an international studies major, so I'm doing that anyway. I'm a college fellow, so I'll be doing undergraduate research for that, so I'm already covered with my hours, and I've barely finished my first year. It's all in the plan anyway.
We're getting some questions about the sciences courses that are requirements in the arts and sciences. So can you talk about the civilization, expression, society, and science courses?
Sure. So, Lori's referring to the studies in the arts and sciences section. So there's a 32 credit hours that you have to take across 4 different categories. And the point of that, the point of those courses is just that you become well-rounded, that you sort of learn how to look at the world through different disciplinary lenses, and then can, in addition to your major, then you can address real-world problems and complex problem solve in a complex way, either out doing civic work or in your professional life in a more sophisticated way. A lot of people also find new passions there that they didn't think they would have otherwise by taking classes that you wouldn't have taken if we didn't ask you to take things in a variety of different areas. So there is expression, which is philosophy, the arts, those types of things. There's civilization, which is history, religious studies, and world languages. There's society, which is more the social sciences. And then there's the so-called science category, which is the natural sciences and math. So biology, chemistry, environmental studies, mathematics, computer science. It's a great opportunity to explore.
And on that note, we'll be pushing students, to take courses that they may not have been familiar with in high school. So do we have a tutoring system, a support system for those students who might feel, say, uncomfortable taking a science class?
Oh, sure. Elon does have a tutoring center. It's run out of the library. It's very good, and I think it's also fair to say, it was the question specifically about sciences. I can say this as a science professor. We have lots of science classes that are geared towards the general student population, and so So that's one of my own personal loves, passions, is teaching science to people who don't want to be scientists for a living. You need not be scared. Ironically, a lot of the science majors might be scared to go and do something like hang out in Sam's area and take performing arts classes or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the point, is to push everybody out of their comfort zone.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And study groups help a lot too. You find yourself falling into those all the time, and it's amazing what you can learn from each other. So you don't have to depend strictly on, like the structured tutoring programs either.
And I've always felt, that I was able to, go to a professor if I was really struggling in a course, or if I had questions. I was able to go to a professor because, I think compared to some other schools, the class sizes here are much smaller, and it's not, you're not just one in the mix. You're actually a person. You get to go to a professor, and if they need extra help, they have office hours typically, and I think that's a huge benefit, especially when you're going to a university to study, especially if it's in your major. Studying something, getting some extra help on the side as well.
Sam, do you mind if I interject a question?
No, please.
So I would love to hear. I think a lot of people love to hear from the student standpoint. What's the point of this whole thing? I mean, why do you think we have a core curriculum, and what do you think you are getting out of it?
That's a good question.
Well, for me, it's not necessarily the content, but it's the way that you learn to think in these classes. So while you're taking these classes, you do get the general base that helps you communicate with everyone in your community, the whole world. Basically, it just gives you that kind of like base knowledge that makes you relatable. But it also, by going out of your discipline, it challenges the way that you approach topics that can really help you later in life when you get into this unique situation and it's out of your comfort zone. Then you can kind of think back, like, how did I do this? What was the methodology? And then you can kind of like apply that again, and it makes you a much more efficient problem solver for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Susie on that one. A lot of these classes, they just teach you to think analytically and to really appreciate the differences that others bring to the table, because the reality is when we graduate from Elon and we're out there in the real world, everyone isn't going to be a biology major. Everyone isn't going to be a business major. So you need to know and appreciate, how to interact with individuals from different backgrounds and how to approach situations from different perspectives. And these classes within the core curriculum really, really teach that.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of it is also speaking to what where Desiree was going with that it's not just about this or that. It's about this and that, or how courses interact with each other and support each other. I think that I've taken several courses that due to the Elon core curriculum, maybe even my global experience course, the core 110, that ended up supporting other classes and helped me understand it a lot better. I think that I ended up taking, for my general statistics class, it was a statistics class that I ended up using a lot of that information in my psychology course that I took, because those really coincided, as well as my sociology course that I ended up taking. And I think without having taken those classes prior, I would have maybe missed something, or I wouldn't have been able to support my my findings as securely as I was when I did take those courses. Sure.
Yeah, there was a really interesting employer survey, so a survey of employers all over the country that came out last year, and it was one of the bigger employer surveys, more robust things you'll ever see, and they asked questions like trying to get a sense for what was important to employers afterwards, and I think over 90% of employers valued demonstrated problem solving, communication skills, critical thinking, these reasons why we have a core curriculum in the first place, as much as or more than the major. So it really takes both of them. That's why we have a big reason why we have both is that whole sense of well-roundedness, both in personal life, professional life, and beyond, and of course civic life too.
Definitely. Going back to your question a few minutes ago about like why we have a core curriculum, I only realized recently after getting well into my major that the core curriculum really did help me through the global experience understand world issues from different perspectives, and then the English course helps you be able to effectively communicate your own ideas alongside others in the same field, and then the math course, statistics, help you analyze your data and support your findings. And your major curriculum sits on top of that foundation, and it really just applies those same processes to whatever field you go into. Mm-hmm. So it really does apply to everything that you're going to do in any major.
Absolutely. Are we getting some more questions in?
We do have some more questions. Are there any ELRs that are easily completed in the first year at Elon?
The most common experiential thing that first year students do is service learning. Mm-hmm. The most accessible one in the first year is service learning. With that being said, there are other opportunities in those other areas, but by far and away, service learning tends to be kind of the gateway in the first year. And then sophomores and juniors and seniors, that's when you see more of the internship, study abroad, and leadership and so forth.
Yeah, I think that in my first year, my second semester, I took a course that was in early childhood development. And so part of that course was, it was a service learning project. It was about, I went to a local, it was the Positive Attitude Youth Center, so where children go. It's like kind of like after school activities and help with, helping kids with homework and stuff. But, because I was taking early child development course, it was about observing how these, kids interacted with each other and about how they interacted with me while I was there. But it was still a service experience. It was about volunteering. And so that, could have just been my one ELR, but because I wanted to study abroad and I wanted to, go through internships, I think that, it didn't, just because I completed one. I think they are accessible. Like, to answer that question, yeah, absolutely. A first year can get that, can get that experience for sure. But I think the majority of Elon students complete, like, I don't know, a lot of them. Maybe like 3 or more.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
We have some questions about credits for the core curriculum. So these students are in high school, have just completed high school, might have AP credits that apply to certain classes. Mm-hmm. So how can those be used for the English or Math 110s and the Arts and Sciences classes?
Right. If students are interested in specific information about AP credit transfer, they can go to the registrar's website or the academic advising website, and they can find a page that has a full listing of what AP scores translate into what credit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we'll look at linking that in the answers in the frequently asked questions on this page.
Definitely. Something that I think people might be experiencing in high school are, they are taking, math courses, or they are taking, English courses. And I was wondering, from a student perspective, how did courses that you took in high school compare to some of the Elon core curriculum courses that you've taken? Like, how did your high school English compare to your English 110, or your math experience compare to your general statistics? Something like that.
Well, I want to take that in a little bit of a different direction, because I haven't taken a single a single math class at Elon.
Okay.
So I placed out of that because of AP classes. But when I came to my classes, when I actually had to use my statistics information, I didn't have that computer software knowledge that I needed to actually do those projects. So I actually wish that I did take statistics at Elon, because we didn't touch Sigma Plot or any of those softwares in high school.
What about Gabriella or Desiree?
Well, I took AP Language and Composition my junior year of high school, and so I tested out of English 110. but one thing I noticed is, I mean, you lose your writing capabilities so quickly. Luckily, liberal arts university, you write all the time, so you build it back up, like, especially through global and some of my other classes. But definitely to always have some kind of course that keeps up your writing is useful, because it's hard to get back into that flow, especially when you're writing papers all the time. Then you get used to it again. But it would have been nice to take that English again at Elon, I think.
Definitely. All right.
Yeah,
Well, that looks like that's
things
our
were
time
a
for
little.
today. Oh, well, Desiree, did you have something to say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be really
No, please
brief.
go. Go.
But
Go.
things were a little difficult for me freshman year just because the academic rigor of Elon courses I wasn't really prepared for coming out of high school because they weren't easy for me in high school, but I was just kind of used to the flow of things. So coming to Elon, there was a bit of a adjustment period that I had to really get acclimated to my professor's teaching style, and there were many office visits that I had to do. But all of those things were really honing me for my next 3 years at Elon. And even though there is a little bit of growth period, or at least there was for me, you have professors there that are willing to help. And that is just so valuable, especially when you're transitioning into a college setting. You know, you need the extra help and support, and they're definitely there to help you along. So.
All right. Well, thank you all the students that are providing insight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Coker, for
Thank you,
coming
Sam.
here. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everybody who's helped make this, successful. And but so for next week, we're going to be, I guess, or no, it's on Thursday.
Mhm.
On Thursday, we're going to be having another one of these sessions
On orientation.
on orientation. So if you guys tune in again at 6, we'll be back. So please come back. We're going to have more information, more perspectives for you. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you again.